The film which you're now going to see is a record of our summer holiday of 1951. It was a holiday which we spent in a motor cruiser on River Thames. We started off at Bourne End, we went right up to Lechlade, and of course back again to Bourne End at the end. But meanwhile, we had also been down as far as Windsor. However, you will see all this later on. On this holiday, there were the following people: myself, Nicky, Christopher, Guy, and of course our faithful companion Midge, our boxer bitch. However, as you will see, the holiday had a sad ending. By the way, the producer of this stupendous production, not only the producer, the man who filmed it, the man who arranged the music, who made up the film script, in fact, the man who did everything was the one and only, the most famous producer of all, of course, whom you know. Oh, I'm so sorry, his name slipped my memory for a minute. Well, never mind, you better look at the film. So, here it is. Here we are on our first morning. We are just below Henley now. Here is our boat called the Sunset. Here are a couple cuddling. And here is Henley in the background. The weather, as you can see, was perfect on that particular day, but on the average it was pretty mouldy, believe me. It just kept on raining and raining. However, here is sunshine, as you can see. And here is Mr. Know-all doing his gymnastics. Here is Marsh Loch, which we thought this year to be the most beautiful of all lochs. The flowers were arranged in a most perfect manner. In fact, everything looked just beautiful. And here is Mr. Know-all doing the steering. Judging by his raincoat, you can see we had a lot of rain. Here is the railway bridge, just above Pangbourne. And here one of the most beautiful houses, just overlooking the river. One day we decided to have lunch on land, and here we are at the Swan Inn at Streatley. Our boat is tied up in the foreground, and here is the view we had of the river. One of our favourite places on the river is a place called Newnham Manor. It is below Oxford, and it now belongs to the RAF. It's an ideal spot for camping, and we tied up on this particular place on 2 nights. And our stores having run low, we went up to Oxford. And here you see the boys fishing. There's Folly Bridge in the background. However, we didn't like Oxford all that much, and as we had plenty of time and didn't have to go higher up just yet, we decided to go below Oxford for the night, and so we went just below Iffley Loch, which is the first loch. By the way, these swans, how did we get rid of them? I tell you, you just throw a piece of bread in front of a swan. It will dive for it. In other words, its neck will go below water, its tail will stick up out of the water, and you just give one little tug at that tail, and you'll find that no more swans will keep in the neighborhood. However, it's forbidden, let me tell you. Here we are on our way back again to Oxford, upstream this time for good. This was the funniest incident of the whole trip. We got on land, and there was this little puppy having lost its mother, and there was Midge, who never had any pups, and yet she behaved. Well, all I can say, the mother instinct, there was it was. However, we were upstream now, and here we are about 10 to 15 miles above Oxford. Here we are approaching a place called Ratcott, which is below Lechlade. On this particular day, it just rained and rained and rained. Mr. Knowall did his scribbling, the boys did everything they could think of, and we were glad when, on the next morning, it was better again. And here we are on that morning. We're doing our, what we called, morning toilet. The dog had done its toilet, of course, already, but she will not escape. Ah, poor Chrissy was tired. However, here's a bucket of water, some invisible soap, some invisible face flannels, and here they are washing themselves. And poor dog, she had to have her face washed too. And here we are, approaching almost the end of our trip upstream. We're getting near Lechlade. On the way we did some fishing, as you can see again, and this is a place where we spent 3 nights. It was really perfect. And here's Lechlade Church. To go higher up would have been too risky, as the river, as you can see here, is already narrow enough. And we didn't want to risk to have a broken propeller. And fishing, of course, there was plenty of it. In all, the boys caught, I think it was 157.5 fishes. And here's just one of them. Ah, more fish. One for Mr. Knowall. One weekend, Harry and Mary Ann came to us, and here is Harry teaching the boys how to fish. He caught one, they caught 157, and he still insisted on teaching them. But poor Harry, he developed a cold, and here on Sunday morning you see them drive off. We, as we didn't have anything else to do, decided to make a record trip. And in fact, between 10 o'clock in the morning and 6 o'clock in the evening, we covered over 30 miles, of course, mainly due to the help of Mr. Knowall, who worked the locks most efficiently. Here you see him at work. This was the most perfect evening of our whole trip. It was Sunday evening, and here you see the boys beginning to fish. It was so perfect, in fact, that they decided to go and have a swim as well. The dog didn't, she just listened to the wireless. Here's the one and only picture of the producer. Here is Nick with his flappers, which was most successful. Christopher, he decided to go swimming as well, but you just watch what happened. He undressed, he put on his goggles, and just went to taste the water. It was cold, he said. Mr. Knowall tried to fight him and throw him in, but he was unsuccessful. But Mr. Knowall, he braved the elements all right. Here we are approaching Osney Bridge, the lowest of all bridges over River Thames. The clearance between water and the top of the bridge is 7'6". Our boat took 7'4" of this, and you can imagine that we had a few uneasy moments as we went under it. The camera, of course, as you can see, was not at top level, otherwise it would have been looking really gruesome. However, we scraped through, as you can see. And here we are, on the way down. We are already at Clifton Lock, 12 miles below Oxford. Here you see us steering into Clifton Lock. The most perfect view of the whole river, I think, is the view of these hills. They are called Sinodun Hills, spelled S-I-N-O-D-U-N. We call them Chumley for short. You go literally round them, as the river is very bendy at this part, and it really does look beautiful with all these trees on top. However, as you can see, the weather was everything but beautiful for us. And this, by the way, is what we thought was the most perfect house of the whole river. It had everything, boathouse, gardens, everything. Here we are at Whitchurch Hill, which Guy and I climbed one day with Midge. We spent the night just below it in the most wonderful spot. In the background you see a railway bridge near Basildon and the farms all lying below us. It literally was as if one saw it from the air. There you see one of the many, many boats just cruising along the river lazily. But I'm afraid our holiday drew towards its close, and here we are already at Bourne End. Here we are for days fishing near Windsor, to which we had invited Bonnick. And here's Mr. Knowall with his camera. Here is Windsor Castle. Here, the chapel of Eton College, and Windsor Castle again. And here, I'm sorry to say, we are getting near the home of our boat, Andrew's Boathouse in Bourne End. Just how much we had accumulated, you can see from this. We had about 6 barrows full. Cornflakes, that was just one of the many articles. And here you see us returning home. You should have had a conversation. Where are you off to, dog? Unfortunately, to your deathbed. Here is Guy. Oh, way. These boys. One wanted to go and spend censor. The other one wanted to go and have a bath. And as for me, all I wanted to do was to see a tap running. But as I said, the holiday had a sad ending. Our poor dog Mitch, she died. And here you see Guy placing a cross on her grave in the garden. So, nice as the holiday was, we were all very, very sad.